In this video, we'll be looking at what to do in Istanbul with just 24 hours. Istanbul is a place where the modern meets the ancient in a very unique way. And I personally think that everybody should have the chance to visit here at least once and see it with their own eyes. But on my recent trip across Turkey, I only had one day to visit Istanbul, and how much I was able to experience was surprising. Since I was no stranger to the city, I had an edge on planning what to do. But the last time I visited Turkey in 2019, the country was still officially called Turkey, and Istanbul felt like a really affordable city to visit. But since then, the country has experienced extreme inflation. Basically, in 2019, $1 would get you 5 lira, and now it gets you 33 lira. And as a result, prices for just about everything have been surging higher and higher by the day. For locals, this inflation is transforming the country into an impossibly expensive place to live. And for visitors, that meal for 50 cents or hotel for $20 a night doesn't really exist anymore. While Istanbul and the entire country of Turkey is definitely not as cheap as it was a few years ago, you can still get great deals here, but it is really important to know where and how to spend your money. And a good first thing to figure out when visiting is where to stay. Since I was short on time, I opted for a stay in the central neighborhood of Karaköy at Cherry Suites. It cost me about $93 a night, which was nearly 4 times more than what I paid for a similar place last time I visited Istanbul. But it was a decent place to stay, and it came with a nice yet loud view of the street. Plus, I was able to take the newly completed metro line all the way from the airport to a stop near where I was staying, and it only cost me like $1. So once checked in, I got comfortable and came to a significant realization. I obviously need a haircut, and after doing some asking around, I found out that you can still get a haircut here for 250 lira, which is a little bit less than $8. So I'm going to go give it a try, and then we can see the results in just a minute. And it's haircut time.
Kaybettikten sonra vergiler izlet Türkiye'de. Evet. Evet, evet. Merhaba. Sir.
Ah, thank you.
Abi en fenası o şey kadın ya.
Ha.
Direkt şeye çalışıyor.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Lütfen. Lütfen bye bye.
33. Gray hair.
Yes, yes. Normal.
Wow.
Okay.
Messy. 100%. Whoa. Nice. Güzel.
Güzel. Bir şey değil. Okay.
Teşekkürler.
Bir şey değil.
And it turns out that was one of the best haircuts I ever got. And yeah, it only cost me like $7. I did decide to pay an extra $5 to get the shave, but I mean, look at how sparkling clean I am. And now that I got that taken care of, there's so much within easy reach of Karaköy, and just going out into the streets is an experience in itself. But since I was staying nearby, I thought I'd start off my afternoon in Taksim. And when you finally get over to Istanbul, a great first place to go is Taksim. There's this super busy, bustling shopping street, but there's also a lot of side streets that aren't as busy and have awesome businesses. So I decided to pop into the biggest honey shop that I've ever seen. It might even be the biggest in the world. There was just like a ridiculous amount of honey there, but since I had a lot of travel left ahead of me, I didn't want to weigh myself down, so I didn't buy any. But I was in need of some good coffee, and luckily right in the middle of the busy boulevard in Taksim, there's a great coffee shop. And the coffee's pretty good, but the thing is that here it comes with a view. And when you think of food in Istanbul, there's a good chance you think of something like endless kebab or perhaps fresh fish from the Bosphorus River. But Istanbul is full of surprises. And if you're a vegan, have I got the treat for you? But I'm not a vegan at all, and I enjoyed eating at Vegan Istanbul all the same. The staff are as nice as could be, and you get to choose from a bunch of different daily dishes. Plus, it's a super affordable place to eat, and you'd have trouble finding anything for more than $5 there. Not too shabby. We have 6 baklava. 6 baklava. Yeah. Okay. And for dessert, they have vegan baklava, which I've basically never seen anywhere else in Turkey. For me, it's not quite like the real thing, but it was pretty good. But alright, Taksim is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what you can see and do in Istanbul. So with a few hours left before sunset, I headed over to the tram station to spend some time at 2 of the city's most iconic places. And despite inflation, the tram is still a very affordable way to get around Istanbul, with one ride costing around 50 cents. The trams do tend to get pretty full, but they're a pretty comfortable way to get around. And I managed to get out of the tram right when both the Blue Mosque and the Hagia Sofia had their call to prayer going. Battle of the Prayers. Out of so many sites here in Istanbul, it can be a little bit hard to choose which ones to visit, especially if you're limited on time. But the Blue Mosque is a must-see, and so is the Hagia Sofia. To go in the Blue Mosque, you don't need a special ticket or anything. Anyone can go in and you just have to wait in the line. But the Hagia Sofia does require a ticket, and since they were closing up soon anyway, I decided to just enjoy it from the outside this time. In Istanbul, walking is my favorite way to get around, and during rush hour it's usually faster than driving anywhere anyway. And one of my absolute favorite places to walk in Istanbul is along the Bosphorus River. And when I say Istanbul is multicultural, I really mean it. This city is divided by the Bosphorus River, with half being in Asia and half being in Europe. Both sides are definitely worth checking out, but if you're here just for a short stay, you'll probably find yourself spending most of your time here on the European side. But what really feels special about this river that divides Asia and Europe today is that I'm seeing dozens of dolphins in the water. While this wasn't my first time walking along the Bosphorus and I knew I'd want to make a stop here, it was my first time seeing dolphins in the river, and wow, they are just so beautiful. So I kept on walking for a good 30 minutes, accompanied by some cats too. And since the sun was starting to set, I found a nice place to sit for a little while to enjoy the view. In the front row. But after that vegan lunch, I was craving some kebab. And even though the public transport is pretty decent in Istanbul, the quickest way to get around outside of rush hour is usually in a taxi. The good news is that taxis are hypothetically pretty cheap if the meter is turned on. But the thing is, most drivers will not take you on a shorter ride with the meter on and will prefer to negotiate a price that's more beneficial to them. So while the ride across the bridge to the kebab shop I wanted to eat at might have costed about $2 with the meter on, after stopping a bunch of different taxis, the lowest I could get the rate to was 100 lira, which is about $3. I had been told that Tom Tom Kebab is one of the best kebab restaurants in Istanbul. And upon arrival, there was a pretty significant line. You can't make reservations here, so I decided just to wait, and it took about 30 minutes. But while the food was really quite good, I had just spent a week traveling around Gaziantep and Şanlıurfa, which are both culinary capitals, and honestly I ate better kebab over there. Plus the prices at Tom Tom were significantly higher, but I think that was to be expected in one of the central neighborhoods in the capital city of the country. So just about as full as could be, I walked back to my hotel that was maybe 15 minutes away and had a little bit of baklava as a nightcap. And while I was able to get about 10 hours of sleep, which I really needed because I was in between two huge trips, the rest of Istanbul seemed to stay pretty awake all night long. At least the traffic and noise seemed similar when I went to sleep and when I woke up. I had a nice little coffee at the hotel, and with about 5 hours left before I'd have to head to the airport, I headed out to find a nice Turkish, well, kind of Turkish breakfast. This price?
One, yes.
999.
Yani one oluyor. 999?
100 like 100.
Yes.
1000.
Yes.
Not 100.
No.
Okay.
One person 1,000 lira. Okay, and per person 4 people.
Yeah.
Okay, and open buffet. Turkish tea included.
So for
400 lira total.
400.
4,000.
Because we understood it 100 per person, not 1,000. Turkish food is legendary, but every day starts with breakfast, and Turkish breakfast is also legendary. And I'd heard that this restaurant, Erada Beirut, does a mean Turkish Lebanese breakfast. And even though it was a little over $30 for breakfast, which would be considered expensive in almost any country in the world, the clock was ticking and I was hungry. But I've got to say, the food they served up was really good. While when I visited Istanbul in 2019, I was able to eat over 20 plates of breakfast for around $5, those days seem to really be gone. And after that huge breakfast, the main goal really was to walk it off and see something beautiful in the process. And luckily, Istanbul is perfect for that, with a lot of scenic stairs to walk up and down. So I spent a good hour or so doing that. And beyond a 600% increase in breakfast prices in Istanbul, another new thing is Galataport. Basically, the older and smaller port there couldn't really manage the massive cruise ship loads that like to come ravage the city by day, so they made the port a lot bigger. And after a pretty nice time walking around Galataport and some more of Karaköy, my 24 hours in Istanbul came to an end and it was time to head back to the airport. And though I definitely could have taken public transport back for a very low price, I was now traveling with a group of 4, and since I was able to get the local price of 700 lira for a cab to the airport, there wasn't a huge difference in the cost of public transport versus just taking a taxi. And after a nice little meal in the Turkish Airlines lounge, I was headed off to another fascinating place that you'll find out about in my future videos. So make sure you're subscribed, and these days many viewers have transitioned over to watching YouTube on a full-size television. And the sad truth about that is that if you're watching on a TV, you're a lot less likely to hit that like button. So to help share this video with as many travelers as possible, if you found this video useful or at least enjoyable to watch, make sure to give it a like. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.